Welcome to gaLtalk, a new show for women with an emphasis on discussing the cares and concerns of life from the perspective of women of color. gaLtalk is not just talk. GAL is an acronym for Get a Life. That's life with a capital L, as in life in Jesus. We're not just here to talk, but to share with you wisdom you can trust. Now, what we will say will sound like it's countercultural at times, because it is. God's wisdom is often opposite of what we want to do. It's the hard thing to do a lot of times, but it's the thing that will bring us peace and contentment that other advice will not give us. Join us on this countercultural journey.
Hello, Galaxy. My name is Angelica Jackson, and I am your host. If you joined us for the podcast last month, then you know that our topic has been summer love and relationships. So last month, we tackled it from the side of a married couple, and this month, we're tackling it from the side of two singles. And so with me, I have two very special guests, Annika and Christian. So I'm going to allow both of them to introduce themselves. Annika, would you like to go first?
Hi, my name's Annika. I'm 25 years old, and obviously I'm here because I'm single. So yeah.
You did not have to say it like that.
My name is Christian. I was asked to be here as well, so I'm very excited for having a conversation with you guys about this.
Hey, so first things first, I have an icebreaker for y'all. How do you define the term single? Are you team single until you're married, or team single until you're in a serious relationship?
I think you're single until you're married. Just look at your taxes. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's not single, serious, married on your taxes. So it's single or married. So that's kind of how I look at that.
See, I used to be the same way because I was like, if legally I am single until I'm married. However, I had to accept the fact if I'm in a relationship and someone has that mentality, I would be very upset because I want you to take this serious and I want you to act and govern yourself accordingly. So to me, once you've committed to a serious relationship, an exclusive serious committed relationship, I think that constitutes you no longer being single.
Now that we've defined singleness, what do you think the best and worst parts of being single are?
I think the best part of being single is that you don't have to deal with the foolishness of a relationship.
That's true.
That's what I would say, because I've heard that there are a lot of people who are in relationships and are miserable. So why would I be miserable serving God when I could be single serving God? The worst parts of it is, I guess, fear of missing out, FOMO, just being like, oh, this is something I want, but can't have it. So I think that's the worst part of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just that the responsibility of commitment and being in a relationship is a lot. And once you've agreed to be in a committed relationship, you agree to take on that person's burdens or their shortcomings, whatever, all their baggage, all of that. You take on that as well. So the perks of being single, like you said, to piggyback that, is just being free from not having to deal with all those things. However, of course, the downside is just not having that companionship. Personally, for me, like that's just something, just not having someone that's there. That's not a platonic relationship. That's something a little bit more, is always nice to have. So obviously, being single and not having that can be a little difficult at times.
How old are you, Kristen?
27.
27. Okay. Annika and I are both 25. And so now we're in that weird space where we have some friends who are getting married and a lot of friends who are in relationships or engaged. And so when you see that and you're in your singleness, I mean, what is the best way for us to be happy for them, even though that's something that we want for ourselves?
I think one way that helps is understanding that that's their relationship and not yours. And there are a lot of issues and baggage that comes with that relationship. So envying them, you might be envying their baggage. You know what I'm saying? So, I think that kind of, putting that into perspective, it really helps. But then also, why, if God's blessing them in that relationship, then that should cause us a question like, why are you envious of somebody else's blessing? You know what I'm saying? So kind of looking at that. But being real with yourself and saying that, you know what, yeah, I want to be in a relationship like that. You know, just being real with yourself about that. You know, it's a real feeling. So being honest with yourself.
Yeah, I just think it requires that transparency, like with yourself, like you said. Because obviously I feel like if you are just completely envious of your friends and their relationship, you obviously need to kind of like do some self-reflecting, kind of check, what is it about you or what inside of you is envious of that. Instead of, focusing on, oh, they're in a relationship, why aren't I in a relationship? But focus on that. Why aren't you in a relationship? Like obviously you're not, because that's not God's plan for you right now, or that's just not something, either it's not his plan, or maybe it is his plan and you're getting in the way of that. So whatever it is, like focus on that and just be happy that that person has found their, like you said, their blessing, or that season of their life has come.
And then also recognizing too that, if the Lord would have blessed you with a relationship, would you make it all about you and not about him? And then also too, like, will you wreck it because of your insecurities? So
Mm-hmm.
just kind of giving all that to God and putting that into perspective.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. Would you wreck it? There's a lot of growing that has to happen before you're ready for a very serious relationship. So while you're in your single season, what are some ways you can grow? What are some ways that y'all have been growing?
I've been in community. I have friends that, I don't think that the only place where you can get intimacy is through a significant other. I believe that there's some healthy intimacy that can happen with your friends, having great friendships that you can rely on, and mentorships, and you know if you're not in a relationship, having, going out with your friends, or even, people call it taking themselves out on a date. It's like, you can,
Yes.
be by yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like you could. There was one time where I went to a restaurant and the guy was like, "Are you by yourself?" I was like, "Yeah, man." He was like, "Oh man, I'm sorry." I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, why are you apologizing?
I was like, "Why are you about? Why are you?" So yeah, just being okay with being with you and God and the community that He blessed you with.
Yeah, definitely for me, just one of the ways is growing in my relationship with Christ, um, and just establishing and securing that. I feel like if I already know, if I were in a relationship, my relationship with Christ would not be as strong as it was, or I wouldn't be able to facilitate the relationship because I haven't established a foundation for myself. And so, being in that single season, I've been able to, um, build my relationship with God, um, strengthen my ear to hear Him when He's speaking to me, just staying in the Word, like those type of things, so that I can be more secure. And then also, like you said, enjoying time alone. Like I went to the movies by myself once. It was the most peaceful experience I've ever had. Like it was nice. So, being okay with spending time with yourself, spending time with God, and becoming secure in who you are.
Hey, so Christian kind of talked on something that I wanted to speak about. He said that someone apologized to him when he was out by himself just because he didn't have a date. And so I think a lot of people expect you to be in a relationship or expect you to be married or on your way to getting married. And do you think some of that is because as a society, we've turned marriage into an idol?
We most definitely have, especially in especially in church culture. I think in order for you to be more accepted in a church specifically, or in society, then marriage is like the top thing. It's like, if you have a house, nice car, marriage, kids, like you made it.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that that's, if somebody's not there, then that means that they're not, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are worthless or
Yeah.
worth less. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I know it's crazy. Like to your point, like there's a lot of organizations and just different things where marriage is even like a prerequisite before you can even do certain things like in the church. And it's like, but why? It's just like, why is my ministry tied to, my partner? And though those things, it is important when you are a spouse, you become one, or when you have a spouse, you become one, and all those things. That's understandable. But to say I can't do something unless I'm, this is like, what? Like that's crazy. But yeah, that I do believe that in some cases marriage has become an idol. And it wouldn't be as bad if it wasn't for the fact that it's like courting people, just putting people together for the sake of them being together, instead of just putting together healthy relationships, compatible relationships, and not just putting people willy-nilly together just to say that, oh, they're married, it's ordained by God.
Oh, you're the worship leader, you're the singer. Oh, y'all deserve it. Yeah, I'm sorry. If I hit a nerve, I apologize.
All right. So we kind of touched on church people being all up in your business, asking you when you're getting married, asking you where's your girlfriend, trying to hook you up with people. So do you think that the church has a responsibility to help young singles?
I don't think I think the church is supposed to be used as a guide, like to guide you in the relationships that you choose to be in. But I don't think that the church is supposed to baby you into your relationship. You know, I don't, I mean, that's just personally how I feel right now in this moment. It's like, if you are in a relationship, then, you can rely on your church leaders and mentors within the church to help you in relate. Now when it comes to Christian men, I'm not talking about the people who who are as bad as dating as you are, but not what I'm saying, like people who have a strong sense of what a good relationship looks like, because you can't get advice from everybody in the church, just being honest. Stuff like that. So but yeah, I think it's supposed to be a guide, not a crutch.
To me, like we know like marriage counseling exists, but I feel like if there was more if it was more normalized to have more counseling for people that are single, I think that getting to the marriage part wouldn't be as difficult. I feel like if we were comfortable having those conversations of, oh yeah, there's a such thing as being single and a Christian. You will deal with temptations, you will deal with desires, you will deal with issues, in your heart, in your mind, in your soul, and all these things. And you have to learn how to navigate those things, because you can't get to a marriage without struggling through the singleness. And I feel like if there was more counseling, more guidance, more acceptance of the conversations around that, then there wouldn't be a need to kind of aid in the marriage, or the steps towards marriage. Because like I said, we know that there's counseling for married people, but that in between, or trying to find love, trying to find a companionship or compatibility, I don't think that would be an issue if there was more nurturing around single ministry.
No, I agree with that.
All right. So instead of looking for Instagram models, what are some green flags we should be looking for in a relationship?
To me, I mean, I think a lot of, as Christian people, Christian or not, there's the regular green flags. You want someone that's good at communicating, that is a good listener. You want someone that is there to comfort you. But I think, as all those things still apply, or Christian or not. But I think as Christians, the part for me, one of the green flags that I personally look for is just someone that is capable of seeking God, whether for themselves. Because if I can't trust you to do that on your own, there's no way I can trust you to do that for me. Or if I need, like, hey, I need you to touch and agree with me on this thing, I'm going through this, or I have this issue, if I can't, if I don't even know you can do that for yourself, there's no way I can trust you to do that. So just making sure that someone, and that's more than just having a relationship, but having a strong relationship, knowing what it means to hear God, to seek God, to know God, and having that kind of solid foundation is very important to me, just because I need to be able to depend on somebody like that. Like you said earlier, someone that's equally yoked. I that is a very important thing to me. So personally, one of the biggest green flags that I need is just knowing that this person can hear from God, hear him accurately for themselves, know it, and be confident in that.
Yeah. I think one of the main things that are missed in trying to find someone as a Christian is, are they a disciple? Do they know how to disciple people? Because in marriage, I feel like that's a reflection of your relationship with the Lord. So if your marriage isn't making disciples, then um, well, I'll say that you should question on whether or not, if this person can truly help you grow in your relationship with the Lord, and if you can impact other people to grow in their relationship with the Lord, to be in a team together to influence other people to to be more like Christ, stuff like that. So I think that's one aspect that is missing uh, in our pursuits.
So now that we have some green flags, what are some red flags?
I almost said something, but I'm gonna shut up.
I was about to say, if you don't say it, I will. I don't even know what it is. I've said enough anyway. Red flag.
I can't say it. I can't say it.
No, you have to say it now.
I'm about to
I was
say.
gonna say musicians.
You said, wait, what? Say that again?
I said musicians.
Musicians?
Yeah, church musicians.
Dang,
Instant red flag. No, I'm kidding.
that's a lot. That's crazy. I read a book one time, and it said, it was talking about boundaries in marriage, and where they said that where there is deception, there is no relationship. So
No.
it's like,
I will say an actual red flag. I was being funny earlier, but an actual red flag for me is just an inability to self-reflect. Like if there's never an opportunity where you can sit down and be like, you know what, let me sit down and check myself or admit your faults. I'm not saying you got to be overcritical of yourself, but if every time something happens, someone else is the problem, or there's never a moment where you're like, I need to step back. I need to kind of let me step down from this for a little bit so that I can, seek God a little bit better, check myself, repent, do whatever I need to do. When someone can't do that, that is a huge it puts it's a bad taste in my mouth. I can't. It's no, I can't stand it.
like, well, I'm just gonna be angry. It's like,
Literally,
that's just who I am. I'm just angry.
that's just who I am. That's such a terrible excuse.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it is.
So a lot of people our age have this negative connotation when it comes to submission. So in the context of dating, what should submission and even leadership for a man look like?
When I read this question, I was like, submit. Okay. Let me break this down. So marriage is a covenant. It's a God covenant, right? So let's not even talk about marriage for a second. Let's talk about relationship. A dating relationship, if you haven't been married yet, that's not a covenant yet. You haven't made a covenant. So I believe that if you're in a relationship, you're both supposed to submit to God separately. And then once you become married, you both submit to God while submitting to one another. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, like, I feel like the same people, and this is going to be a strong statement. So I feel like the same people who treat wives obey your husbands are the same people who say slaves obey your masters. It's, to me, it's the same mindset where it's like, submission doesn't mean you're slavery. Doesn't mean that. It means, as we both submit to God, we're both going to submit to one another. Like when it says, like in I think it's 1 Corinthians 7, where it's like, obey Christian wives, wives submit to your husbands. But if you read a little bit further, you'll see that it says, and then the same way, husbands submit to your wives. So you're both submitting to God while submitting to each other. So I think that's I think that breaks apart that negative connotation, where it's like if you're both submitting to God, you're both submitting to each other while submitting to God,
Yeah, that was like perfectly said. There's always this negative connotation because it's always, the conversation always gives itself around women submitting to men. Yeah. But like you said, to me, the focus is more so both of you submitting to the union itself. Like when we're talking about marriage, if we're just talking about like you said, the covenant, the marriage itself, once it's, it's made ordained by God, there is now a union. You guys have become one. So it's the idea of knowing when you're making decisions, when you're thinking, you're not just thinking for you as an individual, you're thinking for you as the person, as the one, as the unit, as the unity. So submitting to that union is what it is. That means more so to me. To me, when you're talking about that more conservative, traditional idea of submission, I don't have a problem with that to me. But when I think of like marriage, companionship, it's more so I'm not standing behind you, I'm not standing in front of you, but I'm standing right beside you. And everything that we do, I am. You look to your right or your left, whichever side, I'm right there. I'm not behind you, I'm not in front of you, I'm there. So that's what that means, and that's what that looks like to me. When it comes to just dating, that doesn't need to be a discussion. Just like I'm,
yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I'm here, so I don't know.
My girlfriend submits to me.
Yeah, like cut that out.
Hey,
you don't get to claim me like that. Like let's not go there. Once you've established that you are seeking something serious, we can not negotiate, but talk about what that means for us. But if we're just dating, talk, whatever, don't bring that to the table. Don't come with that energy.
So I'll go ahead and ask us our last question since we're already over time, and then we can close out. So our last question is, how can God offer hope to those of us who are in our singles?
I think understanding that it's worth the wait. Like if God is bringing you through all of these trials in your dating life, he's teaching you lessons in the mistakes that you make or the decisions that may not have been the best decisions, and making it a lot stronger, giving you the experience that you need and the lessons that you need in order to, sustain the marriage that you're going to be in. So I think that's hopeful. Like there are certain times I feel like you should think of it as like, okay, if it's not this person, then God, who is this person? This person has to be extremely special in order for it to be this long. And just and then understanding that if we do have those feelings and we have those desires, but understanding that the Lord can give us comfort as we're waiting, and to surround us with people who love us and care about us, especially if we have God that loves us and cares about us the most. I think that's very hopeful, that and not to, even though it's difficult, not to rush into it, because if you're rushing into it, then God might not be there, and God's going to be it's supposed to be at the center of it all. So if God's not at the center of it, then it's not something that you want in the first place. So, just finding hope in that.
Yeah, as a hopeless romantic, I guess you could say, I find great joy and comfort in believing and knowing that there is someone out there that God has hand chosen, picked, carved, designed just for me. And I hold to that, knowing, if I was beautifully and wonderfully made, created in his image, then I know and I can believe and stand firm in knowing that there's also someone who is beautifully and wonderfully made to stand beside me in life. And so holding on to that and just trusting his word and just constantly seeking him. We know that the Bible said he will give you the desires of your heart so long as your desires are in line with his will. And I know that if I am seeking a God-fearing person and I am constantly in doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a believer in my walk, in my walk of, in my Christian walk, then I know that my time will come. And I just have to know and believe that. And I can't let, friendships, social media, or anything cloud my judgment, knowing that I am on my own timeline, knowing that time is not relevant to him. He's an ever being God. And so that I just have to be patient and constantly seek him, seek his face, seek his word, and my time will come.
Those are all really good points. So once again, thank you both for joining us for this episode. And if you haven't, be sure to check out part 1 of our Summer Love series featuring Jerome and Elena. And you can find that as well as some blogs and the resources that we have to go along with that on galonline.org. Thank you for listening. This concludes our episode.